how to take a design like this and make it huge for a balloon that is 18 inches tall, 16 inches across, and measures 40 inches around the widest part. So she's got these balloons filled with toys ready to go, but she needs a box to put it in so that she can ship it. And she said maybe something like this box. So what I did was, first of all, make a circle that represents the 16 inches across here to see, well, what size would the bottom have to be, have a little wiggle room to put that in the middle. One thing I didn't do, which I've seen Brian do for Christmas bulbs, is to make an inside platform where this could sit firmly without moving. But you could make that if you need that, just so that the ball wouldn't be bouncing around inside. Otherwise, you might need to stuff in some major tissue paper or bubble wrap to make sure that it wasn't jiggling around inside. But if I were making this, I'd probably want my base to be a little bigger than this widest circumference of the balloon. The other thing that I did was make an oval to show how tall this balloon might be within the design. This hexagon I just got out of Basic Shapes by typing HEX and double-clicking, and then I just resized it enough so that it would fit around the circumference of the balloon with some space to spare. Then I added a square, same way, just type in SQ, double-click, and add it. And what I wanted to do with this one is resize it so that it is exactly the same width as this edge of the hexagon, because that's going to give me the width of the box. So the question was, how do I make a box big enough to fit this design? Well, rather than reinvent the box, I decided I would go check out Monica's site and see if she had a design that would work for something like this. And if you can do the same thing, you can go to, I just type in Monica, and it's Monica's Creative Room. So if you go to Monica's Creative Room, I like her Creative Room because everything in there is free and it's beautiful. And she's an engineer and everything is done to precision. And when you're doing something like this, you really need some precision. So I click on Cutting Files, and then here's her 3D models. So I look through here trying to find a design that might be similar, and I found this gazebo here, which has the windows and it has the type of roof that we're trying to do. So to get this, you just click it and then click on Download Files, and her files come in WPC, DXF, AI, SVG, Studio, GSD, and KNK. So I've cut enough of her files to know that they are very precise. They cut very, very well and clean, and I don't have to really do anything but resize them to my purposes. So what I did was I saved that file, I unzipped it, and then I used the import SVG, the icon up at the top that says SVG, and I found the pavilion and imported it. Let me go to a new page here so you can see what it looks like. Now this user said she had a 24-inch mat, so we know that we're limited to 12 inches wide and 24 inches long for the pieces. So when I bring this in, it comes in like this. which wouldn't quite fit on one single 12-inch wide mat, but as is, it could be fit on this. Now, if I'm going to resize anything, I need to make sure that I'm going to resize everything together. So I'm going to select all, because if I resize these pieces, I need to also resize the lid. This is more like a lantern file, so she did not provide the bottom. But what I want to do is, because the size that we're going to be making this design, these little pieces need to match the size of that square that I had over here. Well, this square is 10.3888. Now, I probably would like to work in even numbers, but I'm just going to go with enlarging this whole thing until I can get this almost to 11 inches. So I'm in the right vicinity. And what I'm looking at is from this edge to this edge. I could bring in this square, copy, and then go back over here, Control-Shift-V to paste. And what I want is this. I'm going to resize this until my design here matches the size of this square right up here. So again, I may select all, hold a shift and deselect this square. I don't want to resize my square. I'll move it up a little. This is my reference. So I'll move this away. It's kind of hard when you're working so big. I'd zoom out and select all, or just one at a time holding shift. And I need to move this on its own layer and move the square to the top so that I can use it effectively, and then zoom in again. Okay, so now I can, since I put them on their own layers, I can click on the icons on this layer to select all of them. And what I want to do is move it out just enough so that this line lines up with the score lines. And I'll just click on the line so I get the straight corner arrows here. Back out just a little more. You got to see it first of all. So I'm just going to drag that up until I see that I have a width of my squares lining up with these little pieces. Now maybe an easier way to do would be to split these pieces first, but I really want to make sure everything is totally resized properly. So what I'm going to do now that I have it the size I need it to be is, you notice that this piece is way too big to cut on the 12-inch mat. In fact, it's 32 inches wide, so that's even too long if I turned it around. So what I need to do is separate these pieces into 3 different pieces. This I would separate into 3 different pieces, and each one of these roof pieces would have to be separated into their own design. Once you have those, then you can add glue tabs to glue these together. So what I'll do is show you on this one how I would separate them. I'm going to click on the Edit Paths, the node editing tool, and I want to divide this design right here. So I'm going to left click, then right click and break node. So every place where I need to have the lines break, I need to click. When I click on the bottom line, it's one big line, so I'm going to double click on that one line, right where the score line meets. And now I'm going to left click on the section of the line I want to keep, then right click on the yellow node and break node. Now that's one piece. Then I'm going to do the same here. Left click, right click, break node, and I'm going to double click here. Left click, right click, break node. So now I have these pieces. I'm going to go back to this line here. If I click on these lines and now go to split, it should split them all where I broke them. So now I can take this section here, and I want to leave the score line so for the other piece. Maybe I need to break it. Yeah. So I want these lines to stay with the middle piece. So I'm going to send them to their own layer and hide them. Now I can select these pieces, and I'm going to use my control key and the right arrow and just move these over. So now all I need to do is connect these lines here. I'll use the Bezier draw tool, left click here and then right click here, and now I can join these and I have one piece. With this one, again, I'm going to send this score line, I think.
Excuse me, Julie.
Yes.
Just throw those ones away and keep the one that you've just fixed and times that by 3.
Yes, that would be good, except I have a top up here.
It would keep the top and put the top on one of them.
Yes, that's a good idea. So I will just take Susan's suggestion here and move this over here and go to Edit, Duplicate, and I just need 3 of these, and I'll give them a little space here because don't need them quite so close. Maybe a 1/2 inch will do. And then I can take this piece and add it to the center because it was the only one with a tab. You could put a tab on each one. I think this lid can open for you to put your balloon in, or you can put the balloon in at the bottom. Now, in order for this to connect to this other piece, I'm going to remove the top line here, just selecting it and delete. And I would like to hide this little score line, but in order to do that I have to split it first. I'm going to select it and send it to its own layer and hide it. So now I can use my node editing tool, left click, right click, join node, left click, right click, right click on the yellow and join node to closest node. Now I can show that, go up to the top arrow and kind of join these together. So now we have all 3 pieces all ready to go. Now we would do the same exact thing, and I won't bore you with the details of breaking this design up. Now I wasn't sure if you wanted the door in it or not. Let's suppose that you didn't want any windows or doors. You could just click on the blackout, select it and black out to fill it all in. You lose your score lines that way, so I'd probably need to separate those and send them their own layer. But if you like this design as it is, then you could just split them. Yes?
You just have to, instead of separating that, if she does want the door, just copy the door and add it to another set of the top ones. because they're identical. The sides are identical except for the door. So you need two of the one with the tab on the top and one without the tab on the top.
Yeah, for doing that, I probably would, oh, I've already got one with the tab. So that's correct. To preserve what's in the center, as Susan suggested, I can break these apart, and I can select just what's on the inside and join those and move them over. And then I can make 3 more of these. Control, Shift, and drag gives me 3 more. Only I want 2 of these and 1 of these. So I'll just select this one, Control, Shift, and drag. Then if I want to add that door design to this middle one, then I can break this part, remove this middle section, just select it and delete, then take this door section. Susan is so smart, you know. She figures all this stuff out. Probably should have left it there for alignment purposes. So now we have all these pieces separate, and we don't really need this anymore, and we don't need this. So now all we have left is this top thing here, and this is the lid. Now I think we'll have some extra room. Let's go get the pieces here again. I'm going to copy this and paste it to our design so we can see size-wise that this will fit with a lot of extra room at the top. And I think that it would be okay to have the balloon have too much room at the top, but if you wanted to make these so that they were a little shorter, you could. I can type B with them all selected to align them at the bottom. Now maybe I would like to, I think I want to join these. What I would like to do is make all of these shorter because I don't need them to be quite as tall, but that would be your call. If you were making this, you could decide. Because we've got a domed lid that maybe this balloon could fit quite a ways up into there. So if I select all the rest, click on it to get the straight arrows, I could just shorten them as short as I would like them to be to fit that balloon. With the lid, we'll still fit the width. So that would be your call how tall you would want it to be. With this balloon being 18 inches tall, I think this would work well with it. So on this one, I need to break it apart. And I'm going to select just the outside lines and send them to their own layer and then hide everything else so that I can work just on this. What I need to do is make 6 different pieces. So to do that, I'm going to click where these two join. Let me zoom in a little bit.
Julie?
Yes.
Sorry. Just do the bottom wedge that's already got your
my tab.
Your tab, and then you just duplicate that 6 times. Sorry for interrupting. I
don't mind at all. I know that other people don't like to be interrupted, but I always welcome your interruptions. Thank you. Okay, so every one of these is going to need a tab, so Susan is exactly right. What we want to do is get one shape and just multiply it. So I'm going to click on this little line, left click, right click on the end, and break node. Then I'm going to break it right here also, left click, right click, and break node. Now with the top arrow selected, I'm going to split, and this will allow me now to select these other pieces, and I'm going to come down here. They're already broken apart, and I'm going to select just what I need. Now, I don't need all these pieces, but I'm going to send it to its own layer and hide it, and I can get rid of all the rest. So left click and delete. So all of these pieces I don't need. I'll show this and get rid of the few pieces in here that I don't need. Don't need these little things at the bottom. And I don't need all of these, but probably what I'll do is I'll rotate this a little. To get the rotation handles, left click on the line and then you get the rotation handles, and I'll just put this up and down. So now it's easier for me to grab all of those pieces that I don't need. And I'm going to left click the top with the Bezier tool and right click at the bottom. Then select all of these and join. Now rotate it back, and you'll see the size of this will fit easily on your 12 by 12. We have 11.7 wide by 13 inches. If I change it a little, I don't know if I can get it down to 12 inches high. It doesn't look like it. So, but it will fit on the little longer mat, on the 24-inch mat. So we'll take this up, and as Susan suggested, we just need 6 of these pieces to be able to put that dome together. So we go to Edit, Duplicate, and I don't need any spaces really between these, and I want 6 columns and no spacing. Wonder why it's spacing me all that way. Oh, as I got these extra lines in here. Let me, I think I have an extra score line in here from something. So edit, duplicate. Good. And I'll do a 0.1 space. All right, so we have all the pieces for the box, all the pieces for the lid, and the only thing that we don't have is for the bottom of the box. And if you're mailing it, you need a bottom. So we have the bottom here. I do a Control-C to copy, then go to this page and do Control-Shift-V to paste in place. And now I need to have little tabs in order to have these attached somewhere. Or I don't, it's too big to attach to any of them. So I'm going to need tabs on each side. So I will just type 4 and 3 to zoom in on these. Well, that's too close. Zoom out. Now you can make tabs however you want. I'm just going to left click and left click and left click and right click. And I'll select this and copy it, and I'll do one of Susan's tricks maybe. Select this and hold the control key and drag it around until the other side is at the top. No, is that how you do it, Susan? No, I want to do that. Okay. And we'll do this right. So I have one here, and now I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it. Susan, help!
Well, first I'm trying to view in. How wide is that tab you've got there?
10.4167.
Right. The person is going to run into trouble cutting that on any mat, the hexagon. That's why I went quiet.
Oh, that's right. I needed to cut it in half. I remember now.
There is another way to do it without cutting it in half and then having that fold in the center. If you cut the rectangle with the tabs on both sides, then you add 3 pieces of the base into a hexagon. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Okay. Well,
I think I figured out that I might.
Hexagon boxes before and having it cut in half always seems that the bottom of the box will sag, and if she's going to have teddy bears in it, it's going to add weight and the bottom of the box is going to sag. So what I would do is you'd make a rectangle as high as your hexagon. So make that square into at the same height as that hexagon.
Okay.
So
I'll send it to the top. Okay. So this height,
yep,
we'll make that the same. We'll make this 17.9667. And enter. Okay, so I got a square.
You got a square because you didn't have the lock undone. Do undo.
Oh, you want a rectangle?
Yeah.
So we want it as wide as the.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Now you put a tab on the top and bottom of that rectangle. Just move the hexagon out the way at the moment. You don't need the hexagon there. No, what are you doing?
I was trying.
You're trying to do that. Now, what you need to do, because your offset will change, you put a complete big square around it, then you can do that. But yeah, just do it the way you're doing it.
Okay.
Now move your hexagon out the way. Okay, now that becomes now one piece of your base, and you cut 3 pieces of the base and glue it so it makes a hexagon. and that gives you strength for the bottom of your box, especially like if you're only cutting it out of lighter weight card, so your teddy bear and your balloon don't sag the bottom of your box.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make sure this is the right width. I believe this piece is the correct width. So I'm going to make that match. So I'm going to left click, right click, join node to the closest, left click, right click, join node to the closest node. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to click both and type L to line them up correctly and get rid of this bottom line. Left click and delete. Then I'm going to move this one up a little bit. Left click, right click, join node, and left click, right click, join. And this will have a score line on it, so I will add a new layer and click on my Bezier draw and left click where I want the line to start, right click where I want it to end, and do the same at the bottom. Left click and right click. So the size of this is this should fit on your mat, and we'll kind of zoom in and zoom out, and we need 3 of these, right? I'm going to make these dashed lines by selecting line style, create new line style, and now I just go to edit, duplicate, and I only need 3 of these, and I'll probably put no space in between these. Well, they're going to be on 3 different sheets anyway. You can't fit them all on one. So now we have all the pieces. We have these 3 are going to be glued over one another so that it gives the bottom strength. They all 3 have tabs, and once those are on, then they can glue onto these assembled pieces. So any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so Di, who had this question originally, she finally was able to hear. But she said that originally when you were talking about the top, she said extra on top is good for big bows or adding balloons on top for decorations. So that was a comment.
Good.
Then she said, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Can you share what you've made? And then when I upload the video, she'll watch and try to make one from scratch on her own, but she'll have yours as well.
Okay, what I also would like to do, since there are so many pieces, we have this neat little thing that we can actually send each layer to its own page. I would probably want to do that. I don't need this, and I don't need this.
Before you delete the hexagon, you do need a hexagon for the base of your card to hold the balloon in place. Otherwise, the balloon it needs a platform.
What I was saying. Yeah, I was thinking what I would like to do is put a hole in here for the balloon and put legs on this, except this is too big. Maybe one of these. Put score lines or put bigger tabs on the inside of the box and make a hole in here so the balloon can sit in it without sitting on the bottom. But this at least can go on the inside or the outside, kind of as a guide to where to glue these. Am I thinking right?
Yep, you're thinking right.
So I probably would do that just to make sure the balloon is stable on the inside. I don't think sitting it straight on the bottom of the box is going to be too stable. So I would take this I don't know if you know what I mean, but I'm going to take this yellow circle, copy, and Control-Shift-V, and put it here and make it smaller. But I'm not sure how tall to make the legs. I guess I could.
Not too much higher than the bottom of the window.
Oh, that's right, and it's pretty short. Well, then this will need to be probably a little bigger.
If it was me, I would. If it was me, I would raise the windows a bit.
Yeah. Well, raising the windows is pretty easy because we just break and we select the windows. And we have plenty of wiggle room, so we could move them up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe that much. So I could do them all the same way. But I didn't kind of add that to the demo. I think we have some other things to go over. So that way I could make some legs that are approximately, these are almost 2 inches. And this may be, I'd have to put a 2-inch rectangle on each side. So maybe before I post this, I can perfect this little design, but I would want to make it 2 inches high by the 10.33, if that's how wide that was. Oops. And put that around each side. But this piece also will not cut out of one piece of paper. Right? So I would probably make another one of these for the inside, 2 of these.
Yes. Yes, and I don't think you'd need the base hole that big, so it'll probably fit in one of those smaller ones, one of those rectangle ones. Just make it just a bit smaller. That's it.
So then,
it's only the very bottom of the balloon.
Should I use one of these only? And then cut this out of that one?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And then this one, I can move this score line down a little ways.
No, you still need it the width of the hexagon.
Yeah. Yep, I do.
So you just put instead of the tabs, you put your legs that you've just made.
Right. Okay, I got it. So we can get rid of these. We're all getting lessons from Susan again. So we'll zoom in a little. And we already have the score lines, so I just need to join this. If you bend them, you can right click and convert to line. And I probably better move that score line out of the way. So I'm using node editing, left click, right click, join to closest node. It's not a very straight line. And this one, I'll move that to its own layer, hide it. remove this line, left click, join, right click and convert to line. Okay. I think Brian added some little tabs inside here, but I think this should give it a little more stability inside so that the balloon's not resting exactly on the bottom of the box. And you can make the top any size that you want. And I probably should break all of these. I'm holding shift and selecting them. And I'm just going to break all. And I want to move these up. And I could move them all up, except I would get all the score lines. So I'm going to do one at a time. One of each, and then I could duplicate them again. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I get one of these. I'm going to select these, hold Control Shift and drag. So I've got those two. And I'll get another one of these. Oops, forgot the score line. Control Shift drag and get rid of that one. One, two, three, four, five. Now I need to put the little door pieces back down. Okay, I'm going to join that. And there we go. So this piece can go on the inside, except it's too big. So I would, if I want to use this kind of a liner on the inside of the bottom, I would need to break it in half. So I would just select it, split. Oh, I have to break. Did it break? Oh, I forgot to left click and right click and break node. So now I can split, move this apart a little. They don't really have to have a tab or anything. It's just to give you a guideline for sizing your bottom. It would help if they were straight lines. But if you make crooked lines, left click, right click and convert to line, then you can use those guides to make them straight. Anyway, you get the idea, right? Now we have all of these pieces. I'll empty the layers, and we should be able to select all, and I'll send them all to one layer. And then on this new layer, I can do select layer to its own page. Oh, I didn't want to do that. So this layer, I can send them each to their own page. So you see that they're ready to cut. That's an extra page that I did. To get rid of any page, right click and delete. And again, if I want these to go to their own page, right-click, select layer. I'm going to put them on their own layers first, to each its own, and then selected layer to its own page. What am I missing here? So each one's going to have its own page. And you can move them over. So to each its own, right-click on the layer, it's sent to each its own, and then you can send them to their own page. Each layer to its own page. There we go. So that's a pretty massive project, but that's a massive gift. It sounds like a really nice project. Any other questions?
She asked, is this based on a 12 by 24 inch cardstock?
Yes. They're not quite 24 inches long. These are 16 inches, but you will need at least 17-inch by these are 11.6 inches wide once you have the tabs.
Okay. And then I don't see. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to send each to its own layer first. Right-click, select to each its own right here. Once they're on to each its own, then you can right-click and each layer to its own page. So then you'll have all your pages. Okay, so no other questions.
No other questions on that subject. There was one that came in about the tiling function after you'd started this subject, and that was she says, this is from Robin. She goes, I guess if you had an in view like I do, you would export each page out as an SVG, and then I guess each one would be imported into the InView program and do it. But
that is correct.
Okay.
So let's say I wanted to cut this on my view. I go to File, Export, Selection to SVG, and I would name it lid 1. And then I would open my InView. Show you one piece so you get the idea. That is until Brian has got our plugin ready. Okay, so we're going to go to File, Open, and I got to find where I put it. I put it in, what was the name of that folder? And I'll get lid 1 and open it. And when we export from Make the Cut, we use the 90 size to get the exact size. So there you have it. Now we'll have to use the larger mat. So we would do page settings, change page size, and use 12 by 24. So that's how we would do it. And it's ready to cut on InView.
Okay, I don't see any other questions.
So
Sandra?
any other questions?
Yeah, I don't see any other questions.
Back in.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Susan.
Yeah. Sorry. Back in your Make the Cut, you know how you've got lid 1, lid 2, lid 3, lid 4? I would personally just keep one of those pages with the lid on it and put cut 6.
Yeah, you can put on, for example, do it on this page here. Yep. Double click on the name and you can write cut 6.
Or cut 3 of those.
if I delete this one, then it would be cut 6 right here. Then you could delete it. I mean, you could just copy it once. And you might put lid, or this one's bottom 1 cut 6 in the title if you're going to be exporting it. Now this one, I noticed that the score lines went to a different page, so we'll have to doctor that up a bit. So that's a good point. So on this one, I'm going to put on it cut 6. And when I export it as SVG, I would go export, selection to SVG, and I would going to put this, the name of this, as lid 1 cut 6, right in the name, so that when I go to my view, I will remember, because of the file name, that I need to cut 6 of these. So that's a good point. Okay, any other questions before we go back to Brian?
No, I don't see any other questions. There was a couple comments. Oh, actually, there was one question. Are you saving this? And then Sandra made a comment.
I will save it.
Okay. And then Sandra made a comment. Fantastic. Julie and Susan, you make a great pair.
Susan makes a great coach. I'm glad we have you, Susan.